present the Minister for Women.
Thank you, Senator Cash. Questions without notice. Senator Ciccone.
Thank you, Mr President. I think I'll be safe where this question's going. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cash. Coalition Senator Matt Canavan has said that the Morrison government's decision to threaten stranded Australians in India with hefty fines and jail time is wrong. And that I'd also like to quote, "We have an obligation to help Australians." Does the Minister agree with Senator Canavan?
The Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Ciccone for his question. Senators in this chamber will be aware that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and as such, decisions are being made by the government, in particular to ensure that Australians are kept safe from the effects of COVID-19. Senator Ciccone, you will also be aware, as has been stated on many of an occasion, the decisions that the Morrison government makes in relation to COVID-19 are based on health advice. On the 22nd of April 2021, you will also be aware that India was designated a high-risk country by agreement, Mr President, of the National Cabinet. You would also have seen that on the 27th of April 2021, Cabinet's National Security Committee they did agree to pause direct passenger flights from India. Senator Ciccone, again, as you would be aware, this decision was reinforced by the decision made by the Minister for Health, as he is entitled to do, under subsection 4771 of the Biosecurity Act 2015. This decision, Mr President, was made on the basis of health advice. Mr President, the Morrison government, the Prime Minister and the Minister for Health have been very, very clear. Our first priority as a government must be to keep Australians safe. And in doing that, we will make decisions such as the one that the Minister for Health has made. But what we have also been very, very clear on is this. The government will continue to review these measures, as we've said, including the resumption of flights.
Order, Senator Cash. Senator Ciccone, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. And my first question was also reinforced by fellow Victorian Senator James Patterson, who has said criminalising Australians returning to their home country is a step too far. Does the Minister agree with Senator Patterson?
Order. Order. Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President. And again, I think, colleagues, you will understand as members of the coalition government that we are allowed to have our own opinions. Those opinions don't necessarily reflect the position of the government. The government has made it very, very clear. We will continue to make decisions in the best interests of Australians, keeping Australians safe, and those decisions will be made on the basis of health advice. In terms of our position on India, the Prime Minister has made it very, very clear. The determination made by the Minister for Health, it will end on Friday. And from that point in time, the government intends to continue to repatriate those in India to Australia.
Order. Senator Ciccone, a final supplementary question.
Look, thank you, Mr President. My last question is to the Minister. And look, Senator Canavan has also stated that we should be helping Aussies in India to return and not jailing them. Let's help fix our quarantine system rather than leave our fellow Australians stranded. And that is what Senator Canavan has said.
Order.
Even members of your own government are calling for the Prime Minister to deliver safe national quarantine to bring Aussies home. Why won't Mr Morrison do so?
Order. Before I call Senator Cash, there were interjections across the chamber. Senator McKenzie, Senator Wong, I'm going to insist on silence during questions so that I and the Minister may hear them. Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President. And, Senator Ciccone, you would be aware that the Morrison government's top priority is supporting Australians to return in the midst of what is a global pandemic, but at the same time, Mr President, whilst ensuring the safety of the Australian community. We make no excuses.
Order. Senator Cash, I have Senator Wong on a point of order.
Point of order, direct relevance. We've had 2 questions where the minister did not respond to the quote, and we've respected your ruling previously. But this is a question.
Order.
Well, this is a question which goes to safe national. I understand why you're a bit grumpy this week.
Point of order in silence, Senator Wong.
This is a question which goes to Senator Canavan's demand that the Prime Minister fix safe national quarantine. I'd ask the minister to return to that question.
The minister's been speaking for 22 seconds. As I made the point earlier, struggled to hear all of the question myself with interjections across the chamber. I'll listen to the minister carefully, and I'll call the minister to continue. Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. And the chamber will be aware that in March 2020, National Cabinet determined that all travellers arriving in Australia will be required to undertake their mandatory 14-day isolation at a designated facility. Those requirements, Mr President, as Australians are well aware, were agreed through the National Cabinet process to be implemented under state
Senator Cash, Senator
and
Wong
territory.
on a point of order. Senator
Point
Wong
of order. Why won't Mr Morrison fix safe national quarantine? That is the question.
Senator Wong, with respect, I appreciate you restating that part of the question because that was part of it I didn't hear earlier. I think Senator Cash, by speaking to the issue directly, there's a time to debate the merit of answers after question time. Senator Cash.
Well, Senator Wong would be aware that hotel quarantine itself has actually been tremendously successful at preventing outbreaks in the broader community, preventing breaches at a rate of 99.9%.
Order, Senator Cash. Time for the answer has expired. Order. Order. Senator Dean Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr President. My question is also to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cash. The Morrison government's economic plan has helped Australia lead the world in recovering from the COVID-19 recession. How is the government securing Australia's recovery and supporting economic growth and jobs creation going forward?
The Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Smith for the question. And, Mr President, the Australian economy has well and truly demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of COVID-19. And on any analysis, and as will be outlined tonight by the Treasurer when he delivers his next budget, the outlook is positive. Mr President, in particular in relation to employment in Australia, the Morrison government is committed to getting more Australians into jobs. And what we have seen in relation to employment levels is they have recovered since the sharp fall associated with the initial impacts of COVID-19. And in fact, what we are seeing today, as the Treasurer hands down his budget for tonight, is more Australians are now employed today than there were prior to COVID-19. Mr President, in particular, colleagues, labour market conditions have substantially improved over the last 6 months. Employment increased in October of last year 176,800 persons. In November, 86,200 persons. In December, 46,300 persons. In January, 29,500 persons. In February, 88,700. And colleagues, in March, the most recent labour force figures, 70,700. What we have now seen, Mr President, is employment has now risen by 947,100 persons from May 2020 to March 2021. And what we have seen in relation to the unemployment rate, it has declined to 5.6% in March 2021, from a peak of 7.5%, if you recall, colleagues, in July 2020, but also considerably lower than what Treasury had estimated first, which was 15%. So in relation to employment, the jobs are returning to the labour market.
Senator Smith, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. How will the government continue to support our economy to recover from the once-in-a-century economic shock caused by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, the Morrison government's economic plan, it is working. But as the Prime Minister and the Treasurer remind Australians we are not yet out of the pandemic. We are better placed than most other countries in the world to meet the challenges that lie ahead. And in terms of the budget that the Treasurer will set out tonight, that will set out the next stage of the Morrison government's economic plan to secure Australia's recovery. Mr President, what we will be focused on in our budget is further measures to create jobs, guaranteeing the essential services that Australians rely on, but also building a more resilient and secure Australia. We have already announced, as part of the budget, a $1.7 billion investment in childcare. That is all about boosting workforce participation. In terms of women's health, $353 million invested to support women's health, and of course $1.2 billion as part of our digital economy strategy.
Senator Smith, the final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. How has the government supported businesses to retain apprentices and help deliver more skilled workers for Australian businesses?
Order. Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, as you know, in terms of an economic downturn, in terms of a pandemic, the first people to be let go are apprentices and trainees. And that's why the Morrison government put in place policies to ensure that businesses who had apprentices and trainees were able to keep them on at the beginning of the pandemic. What we have now seen as a result of our supporting apprentices and trainees wage subsidy is 123,000 apprentices have been kept on since the beginning of COVID-19. But, Mr President, we've gone further than that. And we, of course, put in place our Boosting Apprenticeship Commencements wage subsidy. We wanted to actually bring on 100,000 new apprentices in a 12-month period. I'm pleased to inform the chamber that we did that in less than 5 months. We have now extended that wage subsidy, and to date, colleagues, over 140,000 new commencements, new apprentices and trainees have now been brought on.
Senator Kitching.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Senator Reynolds. I refer to reports of the tragic death of 23-year-old Liam Danaher, who died waiting for a seizure mat. The NDIS repeatedly rejected Liam's request for a seizure mat over the course of an 18-month-long AAT battle. His family say a $445 seizure mat would have saved his life. Why was Liam's seizure mat rejected? How many thousands of taxpayer dollars did the Morrison government spend on legal advice and lawyers to deny Liam his $445 seizure mat?
The Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the senator for that question. That is a very tragic case, and I have been in contact with Liam's father, who I will be meeting at his convenience. I am still seeking further information on his case. It is complex. The trustee is also involved, so in the process of getting further information, so in the first instance I can discuss the matter with his father and then provide more information as is appropriate to do so on individual cases.
Senator, I think Senator. Sorry, I've got to check if Senator Reynolds, I think, had resumed her seat. Have you resumed your seat, Senator Reynolds? I'll call you to ask your supplementary. You can do that as part of that, Senator Kitching.
Okay. Well, then, how much was could you answer the question about what you spent in legal costs? The seizure mat Liam Danaher died waiting for was recommended by 3 different allied health professionals, a neurologist and an independent assessor, as I'm sure you're aware if you've spoken with Liam's father. Why then did the National Disability Insurance Agency still deny Liam the support he needed?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr President, and I'll have to take on notice, Senator, the legal costs, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. And look, if I could, can I reiterate my condolences to Mr Danaher's family? Any death of a child is always tragic. And as I've said, I've offered to meet and I've been in touch with his father, and I'm seeking some more information for him, which I will meet in person to pass on to him. I understand that Liam did receive support from the NDIS from the 9th of May until the 2019 to the 5th of February 2021, but at this stage I'm unable to provide any further advice.
Senator Kitching, a final supplementary
Thank
question.
you, Mr. President. As you say, Minister, the death of any child is tragic. This was an avoidable death if he had received the support. Why did the National Disability Insurance Agency contact the grieving Danher family requesting urgent quotes for the very seizure mat that would have saved their son Liam's life a week after his death? You've contacted the father, Mr. Danher. Did you apologise in that when you contacted him? If yes, when did you do that in that phone call? If not, why not? Why haven't you apologised?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you, and I did just apologise. So, just to be clear, my office has contacted Mr. Absolutely, of course, I apologise. Any death of any child is well. If you let me finish, I'd be happy to answer the question.
So I've got to take the point of order, Senator Reynolds. Senator Kitching, on a point of order.
I'd like to know, because it was unclear, whether Senator Reynolds is apologising now to the Danher family, or as my question stated, was it in the phone
Senator
call
Kitching,
with
please. The minister's been speaking for 10 seconds. I can't allow you to re-ask part of the question. You can raise a point of order on direct relevance. At this point, I think the minister was being directly relevant. There's an opportunity to debate it after question time. Senator Reynolds.
Look, thank you very much, Mr. President. And as I said, I'm not able to discuss the details of this case any further. The NDIA Chief Legal Counsel is currently reviewing the case and will be providing a report on that. My office has been in touch with Mr. Danher, who is currently relocating, and I will be meeting with him at his convenience.
Senator Faruqi.
Mr. President, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Trade, Senator Cash. Minister, globally, thousands are dying from COVID-19 each day because they don't have treatment or vaccines. At the same time, majority white Western countries like ours are hoarding vaccines and ordering more than they will ever need. The TRIPS waiver proposal to the World Trade Organization would temporarily lift intellectual property restrictions so poorer countries can manufacture vital vaccines, medicines, masks and ventilators. But since October, the Liberal National Government has ignored the pleas of more than 100 countries for our support. Australia has stonewalled and advocated against the waiver, putting profit ahead of the lives of people that look like me in countries that you don't give a damn about. Why won't the government give its unequivocal support to the TRIPS waiver?
The Minister representing the Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I thank Senator Faruqi for her question. And Senator Faruqi, whilst I understand the sentiment of your question, I am actually going to disagree with the comments you've made in relation to the government. In relation to the position on the waiver, I will take that on notice and seek further information for you from the relevant minister. But what I would say is this, and in particular when it comes to, say, countries like India, and certainly I've met with the Indian community in terms of what they've raised on the waiver, but also countries, for example, in the Pacific. What Australia is doing is working with them to ensure that they do have access to the vaccinations that they need. As you would know, just in relation to India, that country itself has shown great leadership, not just to Australia, but globally, their generosity throughout the pandemic. In fact, they have exported over 66 million vaccines globally, as you would know. In terms of the Pacific itself, when you look at India and you look at the number of vaccines that they themselves have also donated to countries, say, Nauru and to Fiji. And what the government's position is, has been articulated by the Prime Minister, is it is now time for the world to repay that generosity, and Australia, in terms of working with India in this case, is well and truly going to play its part. As you know, we have made a commitment to India in relation to essential medical supplies, as part of the Australian government's initial package to assist India as it battles COVID-19. And part of that includes over 1,000 ventilators and 43 oxygen concentrators. We are doing at this point in time what we can, identifying with the Indian government its
Senator
needs.
Cash, time for the answers expired. Senator Faruqi, a supplementary question.
The Morrison government is increasingly isolated in its morally indefensible opposition to the TRIPS waiver. Now that the US, New Zealand and French governments—
Sorry, I need to be able to hear the question. Senator Faruqi, I'm going to ask you to start the question again because there were interjections across the chamber and I couldn't hear it. Senator Faruqi.
The Morrison government is increasingly isolated in its morally indefensible opposition to the TRIPS waiver. Now that the US, New Zealand and French governments have given clear support, Australia is one of the few remaining blockers to a proposal that would be hugely helpful in alleviating the global shortage of COVID-19 vaccines. Why does the Liberal National Government care more about safeguarding corporate profits than they do about saving lives?
Senator Cash.
Well, again, Mr President, Senator Faruqi, I don't think it's going to come as any surprise to you that I disagree with what you have now stated on the record. What the Prime Minister has said in terms of the TRIPS waiver is that the US announcement was tremendous news. That is what the Prime Minister has said. The Prime Minister has also made it clear that we will continue to work with the United States and others at the WTO to find solutions that boost the global rollout of COVID-19 vaccinations. But, Senator Faruqi, the Prime Minister has also made clear that Australia remains focused on working with our regional partners, and I commend the work that both Senator Payne, Mr Tehan and Mr Hunt are doing in that regard, and vaccine developers to support equitable, widespread access to COVID-19 vaccine.
Senator Faruqi, a final supplementary question.
The government should be leading the support for the TRIPS waiver and broader measures to ensure everyone, everywhere, has access to treatment and vaccines. Instead, you've left people stranded, threatened them with jail should they try and come home, and still you persist in denying countries like India the chance to manufacture vaccines that could save lives. So my question is, where is your humanity? Have you no shame at all?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, again, Senator Faruqi, it will come as no surprise to you that I fundamentally disagree with what you have said, and in particular what you have insinuated in relation to the government. Australia, as I have said, as the Prime Minister has said, as Senator Payne continues to work on, we remain focused on working with our regional partners and vaccine developers to support equitable, widespread access to COVID-19 vaccines. In particular, the development of COVID-19 vaccines through voluntary mechanisms in partnership with vaccine developers, that is our best chance of delivering widespread, equitable access. But as you know, we are working with our Pacific neighbours in terms of ensuring their access to vaccines. The government is working with our partners to ensure the Pacific and Timor-Leste.
Senator Cash. Senator Henderson.
Thank you very much, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Ruston. Could the Minister please advise the Senate how the Morrison government is securing Australia's recovery by supporting home buyers and construction jobs in the housing sector, including through the Family Home Guarantee, which will allow single parents to enter or re-enter the housing market?
The Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Henderson for her question, because this is an absolutely fantastic new initiative. It's an initiative that is included as part of a suite of measures that are in the budget, because we're all about supporting Australians. And we know that single-parent households have lower ownership rates than dual owners or dual occupants. And we want to make sure that we support them to jump the biggest hurdle to home ownership, and that is saving for the deposit. So the Morrison government is putting in place the Family Home Guarantee so that single parents are able to secure finance with only up to 2% of their deposit. And the government will act as the guarantor for the other 18%. And in doing so, we want to make sure that we tell single-parent Australians that we stand side by side with them in supporting them in their commitment and their aspirations to realise their dream of home ownership. So this will allow single eligible parents seeking to enter or re-enter the housing market to provide a secure home environment for themselves and for their children. In 2021-22, we believe that around 125,000 single-parent homes will be eligible to get access to the Family Home Guarantee. And I would encourage every single person in the chamber, whether it be this side, that side or down the other end, to tell your constituents about the benefit that this can deliver for your constituents.
Watt,
and I'd also
Seselja.
like to acknowledge the huge amount of work that has been done by the Minister for Economic Security, Senator Hume, because we know that the overwhelming majority that this particular initiative is going to be able to support will be women. Because we know of the 125,000 households that will be eligible for this, 105,000 of them will have women as the sole parent in the household. We also know that 47% of single-parent families rent from a private landlord.
Senator Ruston, time for the answer has expired. Senator Henderson, a supplementary question.
Senator, how will the new home guarantee continue to support Australians along with measures like Home Builder?
Order. Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, the measure is going to help Australians, but it's going to help particularly young Australians, Senator Henderson, to invest in their future by extending the new home guarantee.
Order.
The extension will provide an additional 10,000 guarantees in the 21-22 year, allowing first homeowners to either build a new home or move into a newly built home with a deposit for as little as 5%. The other 15% will be underwritten by the government. The new home guarantee has proved extraordinarily popular, and particularly popular in enabling young Australians to be able to get into their first home much earlier.
Senator Watt.
51% of the guarantees that we've put in place today have gone to people under the age of 30. So this is a hugely positive program, and it works alongside the Home Builder program, which equally has been very successful, not only being able to provide access to home ownership, but also to stimulate the construction industry.
Senator Henderson, a final supplementary question.
Thanks, Mr. President. What other programs has the government announced which will continue to support Australians to purchase their first home?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, this government is absolutely committed to supporting Australians in their dream to own their own home. And so to do so, we've made sure that we have a suite of measures, because not everybody is going to want to have the same measure. As an example, Senator Henderson, the First Homeowner Super Saver Scheme, which previously we only allowed $30,000 to be paid into it, we've increased that to $50,000, once again making that deposit just that much more realisable for young Australians who want to get into their own home. But it will also make sure that we can assist them in saving that deposit more quickly. The First Home Super Saver Scheme has been accessed by about 18,500 new home buyers since the 1st of July 2018. But we are absolutely committed, Senator Henderson, to make sure that Australians who want to own their own home are given the easiest possible pathway to realise that, because it is the Australian dream.
Order. Senator Keneally.
For Industrial Relations, Senator Cash. Within weeks of being appointed to the new portfolios of Attorney-General and Minister for Industrial Relations, the minister appointed Ms. Alana Matheson, a former Liberal Party Deputy Mayor of Campbelltown, to a 26-year-long $10 million post. 26 years, $10 million post at the Fair Work Commission. Can the minister confirm that Ms Matheson is just one of 13 former Liberal MPs and political staffers who have been appointed to the plum federal government jobs since the start of this year?
The Minister for Industrial Relations, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Keneally for the question. And Senator Keneally, what I can confirm is this. All appointments that are made by the Morrison government, in fact all appointments made by the coalition government since we were elected in 2013, have been based on merit. So I completely, totally and utterly reject the accusations that you are making. Mr President, whether it is a federal court appointment, whether it is a Fair Work Commission appointment, whether it is an AAT appointment or any other appointment, we carefully and we methodically look through candidates to ensure that the most suitable candidate is actually appointed to the role. But, colleagues, you see, this is where the Labor Party want to have their cake and eat it as well. Because, you see, what they are now saying is this. At times we've appointed those from a different political persuasion because our government believed, unlike clearly Labor, that they were the best people for the role. For example, let's hear the comments they have on Anna Burke, the former Labor member as Speaker, appointed to the AAT, colleagues, in 2017. Was she not the best person for the role? Linda Kirk, former Labor Senator for South Australia, AAT 2017. John Black, former Labor Senator for Queensland, AAT 2017. David Cox, former Labor member for Kingston, appointed to the AAT in 2019. All because we just don't appoint like you do. John Rao, Amanda Mendes da Costa. I've actually used to work with this gentleman, Philip Deladakis. Gary Gray, on any analysis, Gary Gray was an outstanding representative, and that is why we appointed him as the ambassador to Ireland and the Holy See, because we thought he was the best
Senator
person
Cash.
for the
I'm
role.
going to ask all senators to try to exercise some self-restraint on our first day back in their new seats. Senator Keneally, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. As the Deputy Director of Workplace Relations at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms Matheson opposed domestic violence leave, arguing that victim survivors get enough support already. Was this position one of the reasons the minister appointed Ms Matheson to the Commission, to help prevent the expansion of support for victims and survivors of domestic violence?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. And again, I could continue with the list of former Labor members that we on this side of the chamber have appointed to whether it be the AAT, etc., or the Fair Work Commission, or as ambassador for Ireland.
Senator Cash. Senator Cash. I have Senator Keneally on a point of order.
Thank you. I just draw relevance. The question was specifically about Ms Matheson's views on domestic violence and whether or not the minister supported them, and is why she appointed her.
Thank you. I believe the minister had just said that she was turning to something. I'll listen carefully to the answer. The minister can speak about any aspect of this appointment, in my view, and be directly relevant. Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President. You see, those on the other side don't understand that the employment relationship includes both employers and employees. And that is why you need to ensure that employers are represented on the Fair Work Commission as well as employees. And in relation to Alana Matheson, she is qualified for this role. She has—
Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Mr President, I possibly should have jumped when you gave as wide a ruling as you did in response to my colleague, where you said, I think that anything related to the appointment was relevant to the supplementary. With respect, I ask you to reconsider that. I don't believe that's consistent with the standing orders nor your previous rulings. This question relates to Ms Matheson's views on domestic violence leave, and I ask that the minister be required or respond and be directly relevant to that point.
I take the point, Senator Wong. I could have worded what I said more carefully. However, I will say that the final part of the question my notes reflect is, was this position one of the reasons that referred to the appointment? I think in answering that question, the minister is allowed to talk about the specific appointment without necessarily specifically outlining a particular issue. That may be debated after question time. Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. In terms of Ms Matheson, she is well and truly appointed on merit. She has 15 years' experience in workplace relations, including recent roles as Director of Workplace Relations Advisory at KPMG Australia and Deputy Director of Workplace Relations at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She's also played a prominent role on the international stage at the International Labour Organisation.
Has expired. Senator Keneally, a final supplementary question.
How can Australians have faith in this minister's judgment and integrity when she refused to cooperate fully with the AFP into its investigation into possible criminal conduct by her own staff, but she prioritises appointing yet another Liberal mate for life?
Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President, and I completely reject what Senator Keneally has said, and Senator Keneally would know that that is not what is certainly outlined in the evidence. But again, what I would say, Mr President, is this. In relation to the appointments that this government makes, appointments are made on merit. And as I've said, we have also appointed, over a period of time, a number of persons of a different political persuasion, in other words, from the Labor Party, because we believed they were the best person for the role. And in particular, I go back to Mr Gary Gray. He actually was an outstanding member for Brand back in Western Australia. When he left the parliament, I think those from Western Australia would say we worked incredibly well with Mr Gray in relation to representing our great state, and as a result of that, the government appointed him as the ambassador to Ireland. I confirm he was not a member of the Liberal Party.
Senator McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Regional Health, Regional Communications and Local Government, Senator Colbeck. Can the Minister update the Senate on how the Liberal and Nationals government is securing Australia's recovery, which means we can deliver better health outcomes for regional Australia, like our plans for an increased bulk billing incentive for GPs?
Minister representing the Minister for Regional Health, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thanks, Senator McKenzie, for her question. Mr President, we all understand Senator McKenzie's passionate about rural and regional Australia, like those of us who live in the regions. So, Mr President, and Senator McKenzie, I know you will be pleased that the Coalition Government is committed to improving the affordability of health care in remote areas. As part of tonight's budget, we will be investing $65.8 million to boost bulk billing rebates from the 1st of January 2022 through an increase in the rural bulk billing incentive. Bulk billing doctors outside of metropolitan areas currently receive 150% of the bulk base billing incentive payment. This will be increased based on how remote the practice is, as determined by the modified Monash model of assessment. The more remote the area, the greater the incentive payment the GP will receive. Large and medium rural locations, MM3 to 4, will receive an incentive of 160%, Mr President. Rural locations, MM5, will receive an incentive of 170%, Mr President. Rural locations, MM6, will receive an incentive of 180%, and very remote locations, MM7, will receive an incentive of 190%, Mr President. This means that from the 1st of January 2022, doctors practising in rural and remote areas will be able to receive an incentive payment of up to $12.35 per consultation. And, Mr President, these changes recognise the ongoing need to provide the right incentives for the health workforce in rural and remote areas of Australia.
Senator McKenzie, a supplementary question.
I do, Mr President. Can the Minister inform the Senate how GPs in rural and remote areas face greater complexities and challenges, and what measures the government is putting in place to assist GPs and their patients?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thank you, Senator McKenzie, for the supplementary question. Doctors in the bush face greater burden of responsibility, more complex care situations and high rates of chronic disease compared with doctors in the cities, who can rely on the support from other medical services and facilities, Mr President. The coalition government understands that GPs face greater health complexities and challenges in rural and remote areas, which is why more than 10,000 rural and remote GPs will be eligible for the higher bulk billing incentive, Mr President. Bulk billing is an important component of the Medicare system, and outside metropolitan areas, many doctors rely on the additional incentive for each consultation to help make ends meet for their clinics. Mr President, the new rural bulk billing model will encourage more doctors to consider a career in rural practice.
Senator Mackenzie, a final supplementary question.
Can the minister advise the Senate on the government's 10-year Stronger Rural Health Strategy?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. It's a pity that the opposition seem to be so glib about an important issue. The Stronger Regional Health Strategy aims to build sustainable, high-quality health workforce access across our country according to community need, particularly, Mr President, in rural and remote areas. The new rural incentive rates are another key reform that we have delivered to attract more doctors to the bush and is a key investment in the Coalition's 10-year Stronger Rural Health Strategy. We know there isn't a single solution to solving rural doctor shortages, and that's why the government, Mr President, continues to work on a range of practical workforce training and primary care reforms with the aim, Mr President, to create more sustainable community health care services in rural and remote communities. The strategy also enables a stronger role for nurses and allied health professionals in the delivery of more multidisciplinary health team-based models.
Senator Patrick.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Defence. My question is asked in the context of the call on Saturday by the Editor-in-Chief of the Chinese state-controlled news outlet The Global Times for the Chinese military to develop plans for, and I quote, long-range strikes on the military facilities and relevant key facilities on Australian soil. Can the Minister confirm that all of Australia's major cities are within the known range of China's growing DF-31, DF-31A and J-2 ballistic missile forces? Is it not the case that Northern Australia is now well within the missile strike range of Chinese long-range Xi'an H-6 cruise missile-armed bombers? How significant does the government consider these new strategic circumstances to be?
Minister representing the Minister for Defence, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Patrick for the question. Senator Patrick, I can provide you with the following information. The government, as you would be aware, has recognised Australia's more complex and dynamic strategic environment through the 2020 Defence Strategic Update. The proliferation of ballistic missiles and other long-range weapons is one element of this evolution, but it is not the only change to our nation's strategic circumstances. You would be aware that the reality is that Australia has lived under the possible threat of intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile threats now for many, many decades. A key element of Australia's strategy to counter this threat is the alliance with the United States, which incorporates extended deterrence, but also actually marks its 70th anniversary this year. In terms of the 2020 Defence Strategic Update, you may be aware it also notes that the nature of current and future threats requires Defence to develop a different set of capabilities for the future. Defence is preparing for these threats through adjustments to force structure that will ensure the Defence Force can shape Australia's strategic environment, deliver credible deterrence and respond to challenges against our interests. Defence is investing in more potent capabilities and will hold adversary forces and infrastructure at risk further from Australia, including autonomous systems, missile defence and advanced strike capabilities, including hypersonics.
Senator Patrick, supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the Minister representing advise what capabilities the Australian Defence Force has in its current inventory that, in the event of major hostilities in the Western Pacific region, protect Australian cities from missile strikes from China? Does Australia currently possess any anti-ballistic missile systems capable of intercepting long-range ballistic missiles such as the DF-31, the DF-31A or the J-2?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. And again, Senator Patrick, I can provide you with the following information. The Australian government is investing more than $270 billion to upgrade the capabilities of the Australian Defence Force. We're also engaging our allies and partners to ensure the peaceful development of our region. We are working in forums including the Missile Technology Control Regime and other measures to prevent the proliferation of ballistic missile technologies. But it is the case that advanced intercontinental ballistic missiles are very difficult to defend against.
Senator Patrick, a final supplementary question.
Can the Minister representing advise what are the government's plans, if any, for the acquisition of anti-ballistic missile capabilities capable of defending Australia's major cities from long-range missile attack? When will any such capability be operational?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. And Senator Patrick, I can advise the Force Structure Plan 2020 outlines government's plans for investment in integrated air and missile defence systems. Funding is planned mid-decade, seeking capability by the end of the decade.
Senator McAllister.
Thanks very much, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme and Government Services, Senator Reynolds. The Minister has said she is assisting the AFP with their inquiry into the alleged rape of Ms Higgins in her office by one of her other staff members. Given the Minister's colleague and now acting leader of the government in the Senate, Senator Cash, refused to submit to an interview by the AFP, will the Minister commit to fully cooperating with the Australian Federal Police in their investigation, including submitting herself to an interview if requested?
The Minister for Government Services, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, and I thank the senator for the question. And in short, the answer is yes. I've always said in this chamber that I stand ready to assist Ms Higgins and the current AFP investigation. I have been careful at all times not to prejudice the investigation, and I can confirm that I am in touch with the AFP investigators, and I am preparing a statement. And if asked, I will certainly be interviewed by them.
Senator McAllister, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the Minister tell the Senate why she called her former staff member Ms Higgins, and I quote, a lying cow?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much for that question again, and I think that question has been asked and answered many times, and I have settled come to some arrangement with Ms Higgins, and I don't intend to say anything further.
Senator McAllister, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. Did the Minister offer her resignation to the Prime Minister for calling Ms Higgins a lying cow and for mishandling the response to the alleged rape?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I really have nothing further to add than what I've said previously in this chamber. I will do nothing. I said back then I will do nothing to prejudice the AFP investigation, and in fact I will be assisting it, and that I will continue to do.
Order. Senator Reynolds, I have Senator McAllister on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr President. My point of order is relevance. The Minister has been asked whether or not she offered her resignation to the Prime Minister on one of two grounds, and I am seeking a straightforward answer to that question of fact.
I remind the Minister of the question, noting that she has 41 seconds remaining to answer. Senator Reynolds.
What I can tell you about my conversations with the Prime Minister is when I became extremely unwell and ended up in hospital, the Prime Minister was absolutely superb. I had a number of conversations with him. On a regular basis about a range of issues, including my health. And the nature of those discussions between myself and the Prime Minister will remain between the Prime Minister and myself.
Senator Askew.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Senator Reynolds. And how is the Morrison government securing Australia's recovery, which means we can guarantee the NDIS and ensure it is fully funded now and into the future?
Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Askew for your question on behalf of the 10,270 Tasmanians who now have a package on this scheme. I am incredibly proud to now be the Minister with stewardship of the National Disability Insurance Scheme in what is a very pivotal time in the scheme's history. Today, this scheme, which has been replicated by no other country in the world, we have delivered the scheme. There's now 450,000 Australians with plans, and the intent of the NDIS was to shift funding to individuals directly and away from block funding to organisations, thereby giving participants with significant and permanent disability more choice and control over their own lives, which are fundamental values of those on this side of the chamber. But we are now at a point in history where we must work together. And can I just say we have to work together across the chamber, across the aisle, to ensure that we can implement a range of strategies that will ensure this scheme endures. Reasonable and necessary supports must come with some boundaries to ensure the scheme is affordable, but most importantly, what I have heard from participants so far is so the scheme is transparent, respectful and fair to all participants. Despite the interjections from those opposite, this government is fully funding this scheme and we are fully committed to its enduring for many generations well beyond our own lifetimes. Last week, the Prime Minister announced an additional $13.2 billion out to 2023-24, which he will be announcing formally in the budget tonight. Now, this reflects an absolute unwavering commitment by this side of the chamber to this scheme.
Order, Senator Reynolds. Senator Askew, a supplementary question.
Thank you. Why is it important to secure the long-term sustainability of the NDIS?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Askew again for the question. While the NDIS has been life-changing for 450,000 Australians, we also need to realise a scheme that can financially endure, as I've said, for many generations to come. Participants entering from the states and territory schemes are today receiving 50% more support on average than they were when they transferred into the scheme. And at the moment, the cost of the NDIS are increasing far more quickly than we ever anticipated. For example, the average payment per participant has increased by 48% on average over the last 3 years, from 2017 to 2020, and the average plan budget has increased by 22% over that same 3 years. For example, 450 participants receive support packages over $1 million a year, and the numbers are far greater today than the 2011 Productivity Commission.
Senator Reynolds. Senator Askew, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Minister, what is the government doing
Order. Senator Askew has the call. Order on my left. Senator Ayres.
Minister, what is the government doing to ensure the NDIS is the best it can be for generations to come?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Again, thank you, Senator Askew. Since becoming the Minister for the NDIS just over a month ago, I have been extensively consulting with the disability sector, with participants, with providers, with those with lived experience and, of course, my state and territory counterparts, including a number of people in this chamber, and I thank you very much for that support. I've made it clear I'll consult on the proposed reforms and wait for the conclusion of the independent assessment trial and discuss the way forward late July with my state and territory counterparts, who, unlike those opposite, have been incredibly supportive and bipartisan in their approach to the future of this scheme. We have a window of opportunity now to introduce important reforms and to work collaboratively, not only together but also with the disability sector, so that we can make sure the NDIS endures. And I'll finish, if I've got time, very quickly on Julia Gillard back in 2011.
Order. Senator Reynolds,
I'll leave
time
that
for the
for next
answer
time. Thank
has
you,
expired. Senator Waters.
Wait, thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Resources Minister, who I believe is Minister Ruston. We are in a climate emergency, yet in this government, the government is reportedly once again pouring billions of dollars into propping up fossil fuels, including gas, threatening our country's economy, our people and nature. Why does your government remain in the pocket of the fossil fuel corporations and the mining billionaires?
Minister representing the Minister for Resources, Water and Northern Australia, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Waters for her question. However, the difficulty I'm going to have in answering it is because it actually isn't correct, the assumptions and statements that she has just made. The Australian government remains absolutely committed to ensure that we have a system in Australia where Australians are able to access affordable and reliable energy, but at the same time making sure that we meet our obligations. And in every instance, as Australia, we have always met our international obligations when it comes to the issue of carbon emissions. And it will make no difference, I'm sure, whatever I say in this place, that it will not be accepted at the other end of the chamber. But we are absolutely committed to being completely agnostic around how we deal with this issue. What we are absolutely focused on is that we know the application of technology and not taxes is the way that we can ensure a secure future for Australia, for Australian businesses, for Australian taxpayers, for Australian households, for all Australians. And I think everybody on this side of the chamber would be as committed as anybody else in Australia to make sure that we play our role in making sure that carbon emissions and the future of our planet is secure. But we are not going to do it just on a whim, the kind of propositions that get put forward by the Greens. We will do it systematically, based on the science that's provided to us. We will do it in a way that we can apply technology, because we are the most innovative country in the world. And the fact that we are able to apply that innovation in such a way, we are the envy of the rest of the world, and we will continue to do that, because we believe that the most important thing that we can do as a government is be responsible. We need to be responsible to make sure affordable and reliable power is available, because our economic recovery will not be successful unless Australian businesses and Australian consumers are able to get access to the energy that they need for the recovery. But I can absolutely assure you this government is committed to doing so within the responsibility we have for global climate emissions.
Senator Waters, a supplementary question.
Thanks, President. Minister, can you confirm Australia Institute figures that fossil fuel subsidies from the federal government cost Australians a staggering $9.13 billion in the current financial year, which means for every minute of every day, $17,378 of public money was given to coal, oil and gas companies and major users of fossil fuels every second of every day?
Senator Ruston.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. What I can tell Senator Waters is that this government is absolutely committed to investing in the technologies of the future. We're absolutely committed in making sure that we provide the appropriate frameworks so that the investment that is being made by our modern technology sector can meet the requirements of the Australian economy and Australian households, whilst at the same time we can secure the future that we want for our children. So I can absolutely commit that that both Minister Taylor, as the Minister for Energy, and Minister Pitt, who is the Minister for Resources, are absolutely committed to working on—
Senator Waters, Senator Ruston, I have Senator Waters on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, President. Look, it is on relevance. The question went to the quantum of fossil fuel subsidies, and the answer bears no resemblance to that question.
Yeah, Senator Waters, I take your point. The question— I can't instruct the minister to address a specific part of a question, but the question was about a claim and a report with respect to claim subsidies to fossil fuels. So I do remind the minister of that part of the question. Senator Ruston.
Look, thank you very much, Mr. President. And in response to the primary component of the question that Senator Waters just drew my attention to, there are any amount of numbers that you could extract from any amount of data analysis if you chose to do so. And the Greens actually do have an astounding track record of being able to extract the most unbelievable statistics out of the information that's provided to them.
Order, Senator Ruston. Senator Waters, a final supplementary question.
Thanks, President. Does this ideological attachment to fossil fuels explain why Resources Minister Keith Pitt recently vetoed federal funding for a wind farm proposal in my home state of Queensland, and why he couldn't bring himself to utter the word battery and answer yes to the simple question of whether batteries can back up wind farms? Minister, can you now confirm whether batteries can back up wind farms?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. What I can say is that Minister Pitt takes very, very seriously his responsibility and obligations as the minister who is responsible for the NAIF to make sure that when he gives approval particular projects, that he is entirely satisfied that those projects can deliver the outcome that they're seeking. Minister Pitt has already committed to, I think even this morning, to say that he is going to provide his statement of reasons why he chose not to approve the particular project that you are referring to. And as you would also know, firming capacity is a subject of some dissension in the sense of, it's a bit like asking how long is a piece of string. But what I absolutely can commit to this chamber is that we are absolutely committed to affordable and reliable power, but we're also committed to dispatchable electricity. Absolutely committed to make sure that when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, we've still got power supplying households and businesses.
Order. Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that further questions be now placed on notice.